Okay.
I'm on.
Okay, Dr. Stein. Is that okay tomorrow if we do see him tomorrow?
Yeah.
After a little breakfast?
Sure.
Okay. Wherever the person is. Where did we leave off? Do you remember where we left off?
They usually say from your mouth to God's ears.
Yeah.
And I say from your mouth to my ears. I finished to see him today. Let's go.
Oh, you finished already?
Huh?
Oh, we have to finish right here. Okay. So we're holding on Ayin Hey Yomad Aleph towards the bottom. It's about 5 lines from the bottom. Amar Rab Yehuda. It's 75a. Thank Hashem that you're able to learn Torah every day. Plus of our learning, we should have the basic Mikdash immediately. And also we're learning for Shlema for my father. And also for Naftali ben Menuch Bela. Okay. Amar Rab Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says like this. So it's interesting. It says that it's Rabbi Yehuda, but it's supposed to really should be Rav Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda is a Tana. Rav Yehuda is the classic Amira that would have a comment. If it would be in Hebrew, it could have been Rabbi Yehuda, but Aramaic would be Rav Yehuda. Rav Yehuda Bar Yecheskel, a student of Rav and a student of Shmuel. He says like this: Hani Ravki Darmai. These straining bags that come from Ananju. We're talking about the straining bags that are held the grapes that were used in the wine press. So it's belong to a non-Jew, so which means that the bags themselves are not kosher. It says the mazia, if it's made out of hair, I guess they would make bags out of hair. They would take hair and like probably weave it into like sacks, but it's like the onion bags that hold the onions like that. So then they don't really absorb, and therefore the way you cleanse it is madich and you wash it. The amra, if it's made out of wool, then menagva, and then they need the real cleansing. That probably means like washing with soap and type of thing. The kisna, if it's made out of flax, then it needs even more than that. It needs miyashna, you have to age it. You have to let it sit, like we learned before, 12 months. I'm not sure if it means 12 months, but before we learned aging was 12 months. V'yika kitri, and if there are knots in it, then sharilahu, then you have to unknot them, because in the knots, it could be held in their wine. Honey, the kuli, the chalasa darmai, these like baskets, these are like wicker baskets of a non-Jew. The chiti bechavli ditsuri. Now, the chiti, I'm not really sure what that means. Oh, the chiti would mean that it's woven. The chiti maybe means that it has bumps on it. It's with ropes made out of wicker. It's like a wicker basket. Madichan, you have to wash them off. The tzavsa, it's made out of reeds. That's how Rashi translates it with me. Then lenagvan, then you have to cleanse it, like we said before. You wash it with water and ash. You okay over there? Yeah. Okay. The kisna, if it's made out of no, I'm just because this thing could be blocking. The kisna, if it's made out of flax, then miyashtan, you have to age it. Be a spukichi, and if it has knots in it, sharilu, you have to untie those knots, because in the knots could be held non-kosher wine. Itmar, we have a statement as follows: Am haaretz shahishit yad legas v'nagabesh kelis. An am haaretz is someone, and it's translated as ignoramus, a man of the earth. He's not so careful with tumah and tara. He could be tameh and he doesn't know it, and things. So you always have to suspect that maybe he's tameh. He sticks his hand into the wine press and he touches the clusters of grapes that are there. Rebbe v'Reb Chia, it's machlekes Rebbe and Reb Chia. Rebbe and his student Reb Chia. One of them said, one says that the cluster that he touched and all the surrounding grapes and all of that is all tameh. However, the entire vat, the wine press, is all tar. The other one says the whole thing is tameh. Yeah. According to the opinion that's more lenient, that says only what he touched and what's surrounding it is tameh. Why is this different from what we learned in the Mishnah? It says sheretz nimtza b'rechayim. If you find the sheretz in the mill, now I think when it's referring to a rechayim here, I don't think it's referring to a flour mill. I think it's referring to a mill that grinds the grapes or the olives for the press. I think it's olive mill. It's an olive mill. It says that Eina Matami Alamakam Agoy. It's only tamei the part that it touched. B'maya mashkin mahalech. And if there's a flow of liquid, that's why I thought it was an olive mill. Hakol tamei. Then everything is tamei. So the water connects it and it makes everything tamei. So why by the wine press do we say, according to one opinion, that it's only the grapes and what's surrounding it, the cluster what's surrounding it is tamei, and by the olives we said that the whole thing is tamei. Mary answers, you have to recognize that there's a difference between olives and grapes. Olives, I was just in Israel, I saw a lot of olive trees, grapevines, but the olives, they grow single olives along the branches, and you shake the tree, you shake the branches, the olives fall up. Like when you have what you have left, it's just a pile of olives. You don't have. It's not like the grapes. The grapes you have to come with a cutter. What's it called? The clippers. And you got to cut each thing in the eshka. Then when you're left, when you have all you think you have clusters, big clusters of grapes that you. So when you put them down, the olives are not separated at all. The olives are all together. The grapes are still separated by clusters because they're being held together.
They still have stems on
They
them?
still have stems. The olives could have stems also, but those stems are not attached to other olives. So therefore, when you touch a cluster of grapes, so you're touching that cluster, which whatever it doesn't mean you're touching the other cluster. They're protruding out of the pile. By the olives, it's all one mesh. It's all one thing. Okay. The Rabbanan. Sorry, I missed something. I remember about the beehive. There's a beehive somewhere, but I'm not sure. The Rabbanan said to Rabbi Yirmiyah, or maybe to the son of Rabbi Yirmiyah, they said actually the more lenient opinion is the way that they paskin, that only the part that he touched is tamei and the entire wine press is tahar.
Yeah.
Now you have like a self-contained sugya from here to the end of the Masechta. It goes like this. New Mishnah. You buy a cooking utensil or some sort of food utensil from a non-Jew. You went to a yard sale. Found some nice dishes, nice pots, pans, stuff. What are you going to do? So eshedarka lahatbel, something that needs to be immersed, to be rinsed, which means it's perfectly clean. There's no absorption in it. Maybe it was used just for cold, like a wine glass or something. So yatbel, you put it in the mikveh, it's good. Lahagil, if it's something that's used for heat, maybe a teacup, right? That's used for hot. So then yagil, then you have to put it. You have to do hagala. Hagala means to boil up water, and in it, lalabin ba'ar. If it was used over a fire, and it's like a grill, or one of those things, then yalab then you have to burn it in fire. Hashpud, a spit. Askala is a grill. Malabdim ba'ar, you have to burn them in fire. Hasakin, what about a knife? So safa v'hitar, you polish it and it's going to be perfectly fine. Well, let's take a look. Tana was taught in a brisa. No matter what you did with them, even if you did the purging in hot water, you did to burn it, you still need to put it in the mikveh. Where do you know? Where do we know all these halachas from? Rava says we have it from pasuk. Where do we know the mikveh from? Probably it says kol davar sheyav v'eshtvir beish v'taher. It says anything that goes in the fire should be brought in the fire, and then it's going to be tar. Now v'taher is not the conclusion. Simply, it's the conclusion. You put it in the fire, and then it's pure. However, the Gemara is learning that it's not the conclusion. It's another step. V'taher. You actually have to do it's another action, it's another step. You have to do one more thing after you already put it in the fire. What do you have to do? Bitar, you have to put it in the mikveh. Because it says that you have to cleanse it with mei nida, water of nida. Could have thought that means that you have to sprinkle. What's wrong? Oh, we'll see it later in the Gemara. I could have thought that you have to do sprinkle on it with the water of Nida, which is also a reference sometimes to the water of the Paraduma. The ashes of the Paraduma could be. I could have thought they have to sprinkle on it on the third day and on the seventh day, which that's how the water of the Paraduma is sprinkled on. So on. Talmud Laimar ach chalak. The Torah says no ach. Ach means however, but. So that means you don't have to do that. So why do you say that meinida, which means water of sprinkling? Mayim shenida tevelspim. No, it's the different meinida. Nida means a woman that's menstruating. She has to go into a mikveh. And so what we're saying is you have to put it into water that a nida goes into. So that means that it's 40 sa. Okay. And now we said vitaher, which means that there's one more step after you make after you make it kosher. Let's say if you're purging, what do you have to do? You have to put it in the mikveh. And then we also said it has to go in the mikveh. So why do you need two references to the mikveh? Ikas vitar, if it would have just said vitar, which means you cleanse it, havamina vitar koldu. I could have thought that even if the mikveh is missing from 40 sa, because Rachman Menida tells me that it needs to be a full mikveh, a real mikveh, the square mikveh with 40 sa. You got to put the utensils into that. Because Rachman Menida would have said the waters of a nida, havamina herav shemesh k'nida. I could have thought that just like a nida, in order for her to enter into the holy places, you should have to wait for nightfall. I would have thought that if you take your kalim to the mikveh, you're not allowed to use them that afternoon. You have to wait for nightfall. So it says v'tar, because it says that you cleanse it. Now you put it in the mikveh, immediately you give it a rinse, and you can already start making your coffee and whatever. Now the Gemara over here was thinking that it just didn't need to be an absolute mikveh. It just needs to be, you put it in water. Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rabba Baravua. So Torah altar. Altar means immediately. Rav Nachman says the name of Rabba Baravua was his father. What's going on? No, you're looking at me like something's wrong. Maybe you just woke up. Okay.
Focusing.
Okay, beautiful. Afilu kelim chadashim b'mashma. Nachman says that even if you buy a brand new vessel, not that you bought it at a yard sale and they were already used, even if you bought it in Walmart and Target, you bought a new vessel, it also needs to be put in the mikveh. The yeshanim, the libnan kechadashim damim, because after you kasher it, it's considered like brand new. We used to get yahrzeit candles in a glass. In my grandmother's house, we would always use them for cups. Those yahrzeit candle cups. I don't remember, Josh.
With the stars on the bottom.
It was a glass yahrzeit candle, and
Yeah, but
after
I never
burnt
used
out,
it.
we'd use it for like juice, a juice cup. And I would always tell my grandma, "No, I don't want to use that one." She said, "Why? It's clean. It's exactly like the other ones. It's perfect. It's exactly the same. It's even cleaner because I washed it even more." That's what she would tell me. Anyway, so it's saying that it's brand new. So, and you still have to put it in the mikveh. You washed it out, you clean, you did hagala, you clean. It's brand new. So, and you still have to put it in the mikveh. Obviously, if you buy it brand new, you also have to put it in the mikveh. Filachi by tefillah. Maskefla Rav Sheshes says, 1 second. If the mikveh for utensils has nothing to do with non-kosher taste, then afilu zuzah desarbala nami. Even it's supposed to be zuga probably. Even the twizzler, the scissors of a hairdresser, I guess, is also should go into the mikveh. It's nothing to do with taste. If every utensil that you buy from a non-Jew, nothing to do with taste, has to go into mikveh, you should put scissors in the mikveh. Amalei kli suda min beparsha. We learned it from the laws at the battle with Midian. A tailor. Cloak shears. Okay, so you're using the same translation. We learned these halachas from the battle with Midian. When they went to Midian, they came back with utensils, copper utensils and gold utensils, and several. And what were the utensils referring to there? Referring to food utensils. for So so now the halachas that we learned from there are not referring to scissors that a tailor would use. It's referring to only things that were used for food. Okay. I'm Rav Nachman, I'm Rav Baravua. If this would be halacha, there'd be a lot to talk about. They have to put the racks from your refrigerator in the thing. What about the racks from the oven? And what about the can openers and corkscrews? And, all these things. Are these considered klei suda? Or what are they considered? Microwaves? And they don't put it in the
The microwave you can put in a cup, right?
Yeah, so that's referring to koshering, making it kosher. We're talking about another step. Besides for making it kosher, you also have to put it in the mikveh.
How do you do that?
I don't know. I never saw anyone put a microwave in the mikveh. But I'm saying this discussion. But you know what they do put in the mikveh? They put in the sandwich makers. That they do put in the mikveh. Then they wait for it to dry. What's the difference? A sandwich maker and a microwave? The size?
It might be.
Where the thing comes out. The racks come out.
No, it's
Okay.
molding the food, the sandwich maker.
What is it?
It's molding the food. There's a touchiness.
Very good. Josh is probably right. The difference is that one of them touches food and one of them doesn't touch food. The microwave doesn't touch food. You put food in the utensil in there, so it only touches the utensil. It doesn't touch the food itself. That's why a can opener probably doesn't need it. It doesn't touch the food. It touches the can. Every once in a while, it gets wet. Tuna fish thing. Okay.
What do you mean once in a while?
Amar Rav Nachman, Amar Rav Avua. Rav Nachman says, name of Rabbi Baravua Leishan Kuchen. He says that's only if you bought it and it became yours. But if you borrow it, it's not a problem. That's why you go to a bar or something, you're at some place and they serve you, if you're in first class on the airplane and they serve you orange juice in a cup, say, you didn't table it yet. The answer is it's not yours. You only have to table it if it's yours, not if you borrow it. Borrow it, it's fine. He bought a utensil that was made a mixture of earth and dung. It was one of these fancy china made out of dung. No, they make china out of bone. But anyway, this was interesting. So Savalat Bili thought he has to put it in the mikvah. One of the sages, his name was Rabbi Yaakov. It's interesting that Rabbi Yaakov is quoted often like that. I wonder how often that is in Shas. He says, I learned from Rabbi Yochanan that it's only metal utensils. It's not every utensil. This is like an earthenware type of vessels made out of dirt, made out of clay. That's not and dung. It doesn't need to go in the mikveh. Rav Ashi says, glass, today we don't view glass like this, but years ago they did view glass like this. Just like a metal utensil, you could always fix it, right? Give it to a welder, he'll fix it. So to glass, you put it back in the furnace, and the glass blower will make it back into something. So you could always fix the glass. Today we don't view glass like that. Today we throw it out. But so glass goes on the same category as metal. Now the Gemara says kunya. Let's say it's an earthenware vessel that's glazed with lead. It's a glazed earthenware vessel. So do we view it as metal or do you view it as earthenware? Right? The difference would be, does it need to go in the mikveh? By the way, wood we don't have to put in the mikveh. You know that, right? You get like a wooden salad bowl or wooden spoons. You don't have to put them in the mikveh.
Why?
Because the source of the laws of putting vessels in the mikveh was metal. Now, other things sometimes have similarities to metal. They're an extension, but the wood is not. So Rav Acha Ravina is a machlekes regarding a glazed earthenware vessel. So the glazed is the metal. So one says, well, it started off as earthenware, so therefore it's earthenware. And so, well, now it has a glaze on it. So it's considered like like metal. The halacha is that it's like metal, and therefore you have to put it in the mikveh. Yiboilahu. Here's a question. Mashkantamai. We said before that if you bought the utensil, you have to put it in the mikveh. If you borrowed the utensil, you don't have to put it in the mikveh. That's why on Shabbos, if there's a vessel that wasn't put in the mikveh, what you do is, and you're not allowed to put it in the mikveh on Shabbos. Yeah, right? You're not allowed to put it in the mikveh on Shabbos because you're misakin mana. So what you do is you give it as a gift to a non-Jew, and then you borrow it from him, and then you're only borrowing it, and then it doesn't need the mikveh. So mashkantamai, let's see if it's given as a collateral. So you're holding on to it because someone owes you money. Is it considered that you bought it, or is it considered like borrowed? You get what's going on? It's like in the middle here. It's not so simple. Omar Mar Baravashi. Mar Baravashi says, this is Ravashi's son, Mar. His name is Mar. It says, Abba mashkan le'ovid kechavim, kasa the kaspa v'atpali v'ishtibe. My father was given as a collateral a silver goblet, and he put it in the mikveh and he used it to drink. He says, I'm not sure if it's because he holds that collaterals are considered like purchases, or because he realized that the guy's never going to pay him back, so it's already like he took it, so it's like his. So there's two ways of viewing that. So he says, I still don't have an answer. Someone purchases a utensil from a non-Jew, and we're talking about like it was used already, got it at a yard sale. If it was something that's not really used, that wasn't used, so then you just have to put it in the mikveh. But if it was used, and if it was used through cold, that means like a wine glass or something. You don't put anything hot in a wine glass, you'll crack it. They're going kaisis, those types of pitchers and cups. Another type of flask of some sort. You just have to rinse it, and you put it in the mikveh, and it's tar. And anything that's used for hot, for example, a big pot, or a chinik, like a kettle, and things that heat to water, right? Magilan, you have to boil it up in water, matbilan, and then you also have to put it in the mikveh in tarim, and then it's pure, and you can use it. They are things that were used over fire, and is like spits or grills, then malabdam matbilan in tarim, then you have to put them in fire, turn them white in fire, make them white in fire, and then you put them in the mikveh also, and then it's tar.
Excuse me, the first category which you just washed, you'll have to like 3 days worth of soap.
Doesn't seem like it.
You know what I'm asking?
Yeah. Okay. Now, let's say you used it for food before you kashered it out, and before you put it in the mikveh, and before you burnt it in the fire, made it white. So tanichada aser v'tanidach mutter. One brisa says that the food is aser, other brisa says the food is mutter. Well, that seems to be a contradiction. Well, like kasher, the Gemara says it's not a problem. This opinion, this brisa is commandam and nice tam lefgam aser. There's one opinion that holds that even though the flavor that's being emitted by this utensil is not a positive flavor, it's a negative flavor because it already went bad inside the wall of the utensil. It's old. It's spitting out an old taste. So, but nevertheless, it's still aser. That's one opinion. The other opinion says that no. What flavors that emit from the pot, the wall of the pot, from the material of the pot, is going to make the food treif? That's only a positive flavor. But a negative, but something that doesn't taste good, a bad flavor, that's not going to make it treif. And so therefore we said that if you used it without koshering it, it's going to be kosher. It's a non-kosher pot. Doesn't matter. The pot is not kosher. You're not allowed to use it. But the food that was cooked in it is kosher. Because the flavor that emitted from the pot is not a positive flavor. This is a very fundamental Gemara here. According to the opinion that says that if the flavor is not a positive flavor, then the food is kosher. So what's the Torah talking about when it says that you're not allowed to eat the food that's cooked in the pot? When by the clay Midian, it says you can't use the. What's the problem? It says Amar Rav Chia Breder Rav Huna. Rav Chia, the son of Rav Huna, says that was talking about when the pot was 1 day old, or within 1 day. It was just cooked with food today. The flavor that comes out of it is still going to be a good flavor. So then it didn't spoil yet. So then that's where the Torah. That's what the Torah was talking about. The law nice and tam lefgam, because it's not nice and tam lefgam. You can't literally. So then after 1 day, you don't have to cook. If you go to a yard sale, you ask the guy, did you cook with this pot today? He says, no. He said, did you cook with it yesterday? He says, yeah. So you're allowed to just take it now because it's not a problem. It says, no. Gezerah keder sheina basyema, shum keder basyema. L'chatchila, you're not allowed to use a treif pot. That's why we kasher pots. But that doesn't mean that the food is going to be treif. You always have to kasher the pot, but the food would be kosher if it was done, if the pot was used. Yeah, some people have non-religious relatives, so they go to the house and to visit. They say, "Oh, well, let me make you something. Don't worry, I bought it in the kosher store. I just cooked it up in my pots." You don't trust the pots, but what about the food? Is the food kosher? According to this, the food is kosher. I mean, I'm not saying practically you're supposed to eat it, but because you probably have other questions, but in this technical aspect of it, that food would not become, because there's a rule that stam kelim eina b'nei yoma, and the average utensil in your house has not been used today.
What if you're invited as a guest to a non-Jew's house and they feed you something that's not kosher? Are you supposed to eat it?
Oh, definitely not.
Or you're supposed to eat it?
You heard that you're supposed to eat it? Oh, no. There's one exception to that. If they serve you bread, no, not by a non-Jew. If you go to a Jew's house and they serve you bread that was baked by a non-Jew, and you're more strict, and you only eat bread that's baked by a Jew, he's going to be insulted. You're allowed to eat bread that was baked by a non-Jew and rely on the lenient opinions that say that if it was baked by a baker, and not in his house, not by a homeowner, by a baker, you're allowed to eat it. There's a leniency by the bread. But non-kosher would not have it. That's talking about kosher bread, Okay, so the Gemara says so. Then from then on, it's mutter. It says no. There's a gzeira. Ve'idach, the other opinion. Sorry, what is it? Yeah, if it's a matter of health.
If your pus is still go to somebody else, it's not pus, it's wrong.
Yeah, according to the Shulchan Aruch, Chassidim would never do it. I'm not, someone said with the tefillin in the shalyad, you have to take off your tefillin before you use the bathroom. But for number one, you don't have to take off the arm tefillin. So if there wasn't not entering into a actual bathroom, just like outdoors or something, the arm tefillin could stay. Someone was taking off his tefillin and he was going to the bathroom. So someone tells him, he says, you don't have to take off the arm tefillin. He says, okay, give me your tefillin, I'll wear yours well. You know what I'm saying? Just because it says in halacha doesn't mean that's okay. So what about the other opinion? Is keder basyem enami mifkam pagma? Keder basyem enami mifkam pagma. They have to read it like this. The other opinion that says that nisan tam lefgam is permissible. The way the nisan tam lefgam is aser, that is prohibited. That if it gives a bad flavor, it's prohibited. Where do they get that from? They get it because once you've already cooked in this pot, it immediately starts to spoil. It doesn't take 24 hours to spoil. At 24 hours, it's at a certain level of spoilage. But when does that spoilage start? Immediately. So if the Torah says that even immediately it's prohibited, that's because even spoiled flavor is also prohibited. So what's the difference if it's within the first 24 hours, after the 24 hours? It's all prohibited. That's where they get the source from, because it starts to spoil immediately. Rami le Rab Amram le Rav Sheshes. Rab Amram asked Rav Sheshes the following contradiction.
Wait, didn't we learn within the last 2 weeks somewhere that food that's cooked more than 24 hours actually gets better? There was somewhere we learned in the daf, because you were saying just like children gets better with time, that stuff that was in the favor, that the longer it stayed in the soup, it actually tasted better. So, oh, fuck it.
So I don't remember that, but I'll tell you the difference.
You weren't listening to my share.
There's food that's absorbed in the wall of the pot. And then there's food that's in the pot. Food that's in the pot in the like contents that maybe could improve with age or different things. But food that's the flavor that's absorbed in the wall only goes bad. Yeah. That's
Not my opinion.
not in your
I
opinion.
like the part that sticks to the wall.
The part that sticks to the wall is considered in the pot, not absorbed in the pot. Follow? By today, it's hard to imagine this because our utensils are like stainless steel, that they're very little absorption. But in the olden pots, there was a lot of absorption. It wasn't stainless steel. It was it would absorb the flavor. You would taste it in the next dish. You would taste what you cooked before.
We brought that with the Armenian pots, but they had the wine and that the clay absorbed all the
Right.
wine, and sometimes they chop up the pots just to take them and reconstitute the wine.
Yeah, they would soak it in water. Right.
I worked in a kitchen where they had like old style frying pans or pots.
Yeah, the cast iron.
Cast iron, and then they would call it, like, they wouldn't even clean them that well.
Right.
They would call it seasoned.
Right. Yeah. That's a problem, by the way. Seasoned pots. So you buy sometimes fancy pots. They're already seasoned. You have to kasha them before you use them. Besides putting them in the mikveh. Tanan. It's taught in a Mishnah. This is a contradiction that Rav Amram is asking to Rav Sheshes. It says that when you have a spit, you have a grill, you have to put it into fire, you have to make it white in fire to kasher it. But it says regarding the utensils that were used in the Beis Hamikdash, it says it says you don't have to put them in fire. It says you just have to the spit and the grill, you just have to boil in water. Contradiction. Amalei Rav Amram Brei. Rav Amram Brei. Who's Rav Amram Brei? Rav Amram's. Oh, Amrlei. He says to him, Amram Bri. This is Rav Sheshes. Amram, my son. What are you asking? There's pots that you're getting from a non-Jew, and then there's pots in the Beis Hamikdash, and you're asking it as a contradiction. How can you compare? The pot in the Beis Hamikdash absorbed kosher food. What happens? A day later, that food is not kosher because it becomes nicer. You can only eat the carbon for 1 day or 2 days. And nicer, what's nicer in Yiddish? Ibergeblibene.
Oh, Ibergeblibene.
Becomes leftover, and then but when it absorbed kosher food. Hassam over there by the non-Jew, Isura Bala, it absorbed non-kosher food. So there's a difference between what flavor went into it. If the flavor that got absorbed was non-kosher, then you have to burn it in fire, make it white. If the flavor that went into it was kosher, even though now it's non-kosher, you only have to do Hagala. Amar Rava says, I don't get it. Saif ki kapalet, Isura kapalet. But what's it spitting out? The flavor, it's not how it got in it, it's what's coming out. What's coming out into the new food is not kosher. But this one and by that one. You have to make sure it doesn't spit out non-kosher. So it should be the same. Elamar Rava, mai hagala nami, shtifam rika. Rava says that when it says over there that magilan, that it says you boil it up by the kachim, in the Beis Hamikdash, that's talking about a separate halacha that we have by kachim, that if blood spritzes on a garment, you have to wash it. So the flavor, it's a halacha of washing. It's not a halacha of kashering it's a kachim halacha that you have to wash it off. Amalei Abaya Midam, he says, how could you say that? It's not the right term. Hagala means boiling water, scouring water. And Marika Shtifas is cold water. Alamar Abaya says Yagad Lavrei. Yagad Lavrei is an expression which means that sometimes it doesn't say everything, but you can learn it from its friend. So you have to look at something else. You do a comparison. It says Tana Hachaliban Vadin Lagala. Over here it says that you have to boil it, but you also the same thing applies. But you also have to do scouring. Tana Hasamagala Vadin Liban. Over there it says you have to boil it, but really you have to also burn it in the fire to make it white. Amalei Rava says Yachi. He says that's not the way Yagad Lavreya works. That's not the way you learn one thing from another. The way you would do that would be Lasnina Lakula B'chada. One section has an entire list, has the whole thing, has all the laws. Chada Be'ida Chachriti. And in the other one, it only says one of the laws. Lema Yagad Lavreya. And then we say that over here it didn't list them all. But if you go back to the other source over there, it has them all. That's normally the way it would work is that you don't, when something is itemized, you have like a whole bunch of details. So it says it in one section. And then the other one, it says, see there for the whole list, So Yagad Lavreya would just mean that I'm not going to list the whole thing again because I said it there. But over here, it's not saying it all in one place. It's saying half of it in one place. It's saying half in the other place. Now you're trying to do a comparison that what it says here applies there, and what it says there applies there. But that's not the way it's normally done. Elam Rava, rather Rava says, Kachim Haina time Kid Rav Nachman Amar Rava Vuadam Kol Yom V'Yom Nasgil Lachaveirei. Rava says, explanation by Kachim, why you don't have to heat it up in fire. The kasher is because every day after they cook the karban, the next day, when they would cook the next day, it would kasher it from the previous day. The cooking itself would kasher yesterday's karban. The Gemara says, Teinach, shlamim, that makes sense by a karban shlamim. Karban shlamim, you have 2 days to eat. What happened is, you cook one day, the next day it's still kosher, you're cooking it again, you just gained one more day. Because I have the today's shlamim, it's only going to be asur tomorrow. It's only going to be asur the day after tomorrow. So tomorrow I'll cook another karban and I'll cook another shlamim. So every day it becomes kashet, so you don't need to do liban. Since you have 2 days to eat it before it becomes nicer, before it becomes leftovers, which is then becomes prohibited. So I always have an extra day. So if every day you use the pot, then you'll always gain one more day. What about a korban chatas? You have 1 day to eat it. If you're cooking it a chatas today, korban chatas, a sin offering, tomorrow it's already nicer. You're cooking it tomorrow, it's not kosher. I don't care if you cook tomorrow a shlamim or a chatas. Yesterday's chatas is going into it, which is nicer. Amri, the Gemara says, "Leitricha dechim mevasha b'chatas idna hadam mevasha b'idna shlamim the chatas in the shlamim the chatas de lamacher shlamim de esmal b'hadi adadi kashalim zemanai avada mevashal shlamim de lamacher." Every time they ever cooked the chatas, they always cooked in afterwards a shlamim to give it an extra day. Let's read that again. When you're cooking at a chatas today, now, it's now. Then they're cooking it right away, a shlamim of now. Okay, why? The chatas de lamachar, because tomorrow's chatas. B'shlamim de esmal, and yesterday's shlamim, b'hadi hadadi kashalim zmanayo. Their expiration date is at the same time, because the shlamim will give you one extra day. B'hadi mavashal shlamim. And then afterwards, they would cook a shlamim, and afterwards they would cook a shlamim for tomorrow shlamim, and then it would give it an extra day as well. Gemara says, why do you say you need hagala? Why do you say you have to purge it in boiling water? All you have to do is cook in it another thing, and then it becomes kasha. The cooking kashas it. Gemara says kasha. That's a good point. That's a good question. Rav Papa says, high karid v'highlight karid. Really, there's a problem. By kachim, you should really have to cook it in fire. burn it in the torch it, to make it white. However, talking about a different type of utensil. We're talking about where by the kachim, it wasn't crusted because they used it regularly, so it didn't crust. However, by the utensil of the non-Jew, it was like crusted, and that's why you needed it to be kasher better. Rashi says no. The way we said originally is correct. That this one absorbed kosher food. It became treif after it was absorbed. Treif, not treif. It became leftover carbon, which becomes like treif. Can't eat it. And this one absorbed non-kosher food because it was owned by the non-Jew. Hacha, by us, by the kachim rather, the teirabala, it absorbed kosher food. Hacha, by the non-Jew, it absorbed non-kosher food. You asked the kakashlach to be in the kapalit, isur kapalit, but we're not worried about what went in. We're worried about what's going out. And what's going out is all non-kosher. Like my answer is, bidna the kapalit. This Rav Ashi says, bidna kapalit le'isali sur beine. We have a leniency here, since what's going out is not actually the actual substance. It's only a flavor that's absorbed. We're more lenient about that flavor. And once you do hagala on that flavor, we consider whatever's left in it, not the real flavor. There's no substance left. So there's a leniency. Actually, it's very interesting. Alter Rebbe writes this in Hilchos Pesach. He writes that if you have to kasher something that's treif that was used on a grill, treif a grill, you have to torch it in fire and make it till it's like turns white. But let's say it didn't absorb treif. Let's say it absorbed meat, and you want to use it for milk. It says you can just boil it. It never absorbed treif. It only absorbed kosher meat. That's why fry pans that are covered with Teflon, we don't kasher them. You can't kasher them because they're you'll ruin the finish. You can't. It's like plicheres. It's like it has the laws of earth in it. However, you could boil it. But when do you boil it? Use it over the fire. It's fire. You can't boil it. Fire things need to be. Says, yeah, if it became treif, then you use it. Then you have to use it over fire. But if it absorbed milk, now the Alter writes, even if it absorbed milk and meat, that's also considered hetera, because each one independently is. So it turns out that there's a leniency according to Alter Rebbe with these things that you can kasher based on this Gemara. Anyway. If it ever happens, ask a rabbi. So, the Gemara now says, how white does it have to get? Until it appears like a peel of the metal is coming off. And how do you boil it up? If you have a small pot, you put it into a larger pot. Boil up the larger pot, and you put the smaller pot inside it while it's boiling. What do you do with the large pot? Sounds like a kid's book. Small pots, big. What do we do with the biggest pot in the house? What do you do? So Tashima, come and listen. The Ududa Davi Bei Rav Akavya. There was this large pot, vat, that was by Rav Akavya, and he needed to kasher it. So you don't have a bigger pot to put it into?
Akavya ben Mahalo?
No, probably not. I don't think so. Yeah. Hader le Gedanfa, Belisha Apuma, Umalia Maya Vartacha. What he did was he made a lip. He took dough and he put it around the lip, so he extended it up. That way, when it boils, it goes over the top, boils over the top. You see, today we can do this without the lip. You fill your pot up, you turn it on, and you let the butter boil over, and it makes a mess. Right? In those days, they had a fire underwards. If it boils over, it puts out the fire. It doesn't get as hot. They had to make a lip to hold the water in to keep boiling up. Today it doesn't put out the fire. You just have a mess. That's the glass thing. So Amar Rava says, "Man chakim lemevad ki milsa." Who's so smart to do such a thing? Yilav Rav Akavya, the Gavar Rabbahu, that he's such a wise man. He's such a great man. He understood that the way it absorbs, that's how it spits out. There was no water that was on the surface of the rim of the pan. It only absorbed through the splashing of the cooking inside. The non-kosher food splashed up and went on the surface. Now, when I want to kosher it, I have to kosher the surface of the rim as well from the splash. So how do I do it? I let the water splash on it. The water's going to splash on it, and that's all the thing. Okay. Hasakin, the knife, safa v'hitayra. You polish it, and then it becomes tar. Amar Avuka Bar Chama v'nayitz asar pam bekarka. Avuka Bar Chama says, and you have to stick it 10 times in the ground. Amar Avuna braid Rabbi Yeshua bekarka shein avuda. We're talking about a ground that's very hard. It's not soft ground, but hard ground. Amar Rav Kana, today they say, one of the poskim, the Yad Yehuda says that if you cut a root vegetable, that's good as well. That's like putting in the ground, like a potato or a pumpkin or a carrot or something. Then it kashes it. And then today they say steel wool is the same. You scrub it. It's not not a halacha. Amar Rav Kana b'sakin yafa shem bagumus. We're talking about that the knife doesn't have any crevices in it. The old fat knives were not perfectly, one smooth surface. It was also done in a sakin yafa shem bagumus neitzas from mekarka. A knife that's clean, that doesn't have grooves in it. You just have to stick it in the ground. Amar Avuna Brei Rabbi Yeshua lechol batzayin. That's only talking about to eat cold with it. If you want to eat hot with, if you're cutting hot steak with the knife, then you have to kasher the knife. Talking about when you're going to use it to cut things that are cold. So what flavor is going to come out of it? No flavor is going to come out because it's cold. So all you have to do is just make sure that the surface is very clean, and you do that by sticking it in the ground, scrubbing it well. You clean off all the fat or the oils from it. Okay, let's leave the last for the siyum, which we'll do tomorrow. All right, do the siyum tomorrow. Yeah, after the 6:30 minyan, we'll have a breakfast. All right.
Oh, cool. So.
Okay.
Important to ask
But tomorrow, bring your other Gemara. Bring the Gemara Hayrius. New Masechta. We're starting Friday. Tomorrow's Friday, right?
There's
New
something
Masechta Hayrius.
crucial to ask you that I don't understand about. Yes, I don't understand about sacrifice.
Okay, thank you.
Have a great day.
You too.
Okay.
It says the fat and the